Hi everyone, it's Plasky P here from Melbourne, Australia, and coming in from Massachusetts, I've got an amazing guitarist, Thatcher Harrison, plays amazing guitar. He's a great singer, and what he plays for you today is going to blow your mind, I'm sure. How are you today, Thatcher?
I'm fantastic. How are you, sir?
Great. Are you feeling groovy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, bananas, we think you're groovy. Hey, bananas, we watch a movie. Yeah. Driving tune buggies everywhere.
Well, that's really groovy today. Don't know what's happening with the clip, but who cares? Now, Thatcher, when did you start learning guitar?
From what I've been told, I started playing guitar somewhere between the ages of 2 and 3, but this actually predates my memory somewhat. But you never stop learning the guitar, do you?
Of course. Now, of course, you're a great Beatles fan, aren't you?
Of course. How could you not be?
Now, what Beetle Medley will you play us today?
So I'm going to play two fragments of Beatles songs that are not commonly played on solo guitar and vocals. I will start out with a bit of a John Lennon rocker called Hey Bulldog from the Yellow Submarine album. And then I will go into the second half of my favorite Beatles song of all time, George Harrison's Within You, Without You.
Fantastic. I'll step out of the picture and let you do your song. Here we go, everyone. Thatcher Harrison.
Thank you so much, and away we go.
Standing in the rain, bullfrog, doing it again. Some kind of happiness is measured out in miles. What makes you think you're something special when you smile? Childlike, no one understands. Jackknife in your sweaty hands. Some kind of innocence is measured out in years. You know what it's like to listen to this. You can't talk to me. You can't talk to me. If you're lonely, you can talk to me. You can't talk to me. If you're lonely, you can talk to me. You can't talk to me. If you're lonely, you can talk to me. Hey bulldog, hey bulldog, hey bulldog, hey bulldog, hey bulldog. We were talking they only knew. Try to realize it's all within yourself. No one else can make you change. And to see you're really only very small, and life flows on within you and without you. We were talking about the love that's grown so cold, and the people who gain the world and lose their souls. They don't know, they can't see. Are you unfound? When you've seen beyond yourself, then you may find peace of mind is waiting there. And the time will come when you see we're all one, and life flows on within you and without you.
Fantastic. Unbelievable.
Thank
Can
you so
explain to
much.
me what sort of playing that is? It's so, how can I say, so refined, so intricate. It's just amazing the way your styles are. Like, I mean, I hear like pizzicato in, I hear everything. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think you gave a fantastic analysis. I suppose that the somewhat official term for this style of playing would be percussive fingerstyle guitar. The origins of fingerstyle guitar depends on the type of fingerstyle you're referring to. The school of percussive fingerstyle, most agree that the first person to really achieve any kind of success with it was a wonderful American guitarist, the late, great Michael Hedges. And that genre has continued to develop over the course of the past 40 years or so. And over the course really of the past 10 or so, people have started to use those techniques and combine them with vocals. So that's basically what I was doing here.
Amazing, Thatcher. Now, I've got to ask you, most people play guitar with their hand underneath the neck. But I noticed that you play across from the top of the neck. That's even harder. I mean, I'm just trying to grab the gist of all this and how you tap as well to time. It's like you do so many multitasks combined in the playing. That's what makes it unique. And then you'll go to the top of the neck and then you'll start picking it. It's just like amazing the way you actually play. You use the whole guitar as not only an instrument, but you refine it. You know what I mean? There's not anything on the guitar that you can't play. That's how intricate it comes across to me.
Yes, well, I should specify a few things. There are many things on the guitar that I cannot play. That's why I'm in music school right now, so I can learn how to play as many of those things as possible. And I do play under the neck from time to time. The reason that I play over the neck in those cases is, for example, if I want to play a chord like this, I can keep these strings open because my hand is not going to accidentally mute those strings. So if you play over the neck, I can get those chords like that. I'm obviously in a tuning that doesn't have any thirds, so most of the chords that you'll hear are going to be power chords. But that's the reason I do that. And as far as the other things, the biggest tip that I would give anyone who wants to start doing this is at any time, make sure that one of your hands is doing something really, really simple, because your brain can only handle so much. And keep most of the work in one hand at a time. Now, that hand can change depending on what you're doing.
Have you noticed that a lot of guitarists, I'm just saying, your brain tells the hand what to do. But some guitarists, from the brain to the hand is actually slower than the brain. Is that right?
Well, it is for me too. I mean, of all the things that I think about that I want to be able to play, if I were as good as I can imagine myself being, I'm not unlike, I don't know if you're familiar with the Peanuts cartoons. I'm not unlike Snoopy. I have an imaginary world where I can go off and be, I'm not a World War I flying ace, but I can play every piece of music. If I want to take the fourth movement of the Jupiter Symphony and play it on one guitar, I can do that in my mind. I can't really do that in reality. And I've got to say, I'm kind of upset about that. But you know what? I've got to be a glass half full person. And there's a lot of great music you can play on the guitar.
I'm just totally blown away. I just think your style is so fantastic and so futuristic. It's not every time you see somebody take the guitar a bit further, because I mean, I've seen masters play, but what I'm hearing from you is like something else. It's like a combined multi-style, as I said, and I've never seen that performed on a guitar. Like Without You, you hear the Beatles, don't get me wrong, but now you've taken it to another level where the song is totally, how can I say, more of an amazement thing, because it's not easy playing that. You're not playing just straight chords.
Sure, of course. Well, actually, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because Within You, Without You has, as you mentioned, I am a Beatles fan, and I've been a Beatles fan since I was probably about 5 or 6 years old. But I still remember the moment that I heard Within You, Without You, and I always knew that I wanted to take that instrumentation, largely Indian instrumentation, and try to play it on the guitar. Now, the interesting thing about it, and this is actually something that makes it easy for those of you watching at home, Indian music does not typically use a major third. What that means is that, for example, I'm going to, in this alternate tuning, demonstrate a C major chord. Really happy, right? Now I'm going to play a minor chord. Really scary and depressing. What makes a major or minor chord is the third. Now, Indian music doesn't typically use a third. So for this tuning, I'm using all for firsts and fifths. So it sounds like a big power chord. So that actually makes the chord shapes pretty easy to do what I want to do. So it's actually very convenient, where the genre of music that George was drawing inspiration from at the time actually does lend itself pretty well to this particular style of guitar.
Now, I'm going to ask you, I just heard that version. Now, if I compare it to the original, right, the Beatles song, what is the major difference between the Beatles song and the way you play it? Like, do you add more chords in, more notes, refine it more? What is it that, in that comparison, I want to compare their song to how you played it?
Well, first of all, I am a mere mortal. Second of all, I play it, in this case, I played it in C major. They play it in C sharp major, or D flat, depending on what you use. I would say the biggest difference is, typically when I do arrangements of rock or pop songs, I don't try to be too faithful to the record, because I want to get the general idea, but I also want you to have a reason to listen to my performance of it as opposed to the original, while still paying homage. So some of the lines that I play aren't exactly the same as on the record. Some of the percussion rhythms I play aren't exactly the same. If I were to say what the biggest difference is, the chords are pretty much what they are. I don't really change them much. But the biggest thing about the original arrangement that I think I can get in mind is that if you listen to the original arrangement, there isn't much in the bass spectrum of instrumentation. Martin, for whatever reason, and it's a wonderful arrangement, but he picked instruments that were primarily higher voiced. So in this tuning, this is a very low tuning, because I tuned the low E string all the way down to a C. So this is a really low tuning for the guitar, so I can get that really deep, rich sound that wasn't there as much in the original arrangement. But again, I think the wonderful thing about music nowadays is that you don't have to choose. You can listen to the original Beatles arrangement, and you can listen to my arrangement, and you can find what you like about both of them. And I can certainly tell you, as you can, it's one of the reasons that, you have the show with Beatles music. There are a lot of things to like about it.
I also got to ask you about the drumming technique. Obviously, does that help you do time, or is that just a natural ability you got to tap off the guitar back in between the song note playing? How's that work with you?
Well, obviously, one thing I should specify with all these techniques, I did not invent any of them. Everything that I'm doing on the guitar is something that in some respect has been done before. I'm just trying to do them in slightly different ways if possible. As far as the percussion, obviously it does give the element of a drum. And does it help me keep time? I'm fortunate because I had very rigorous classical training when I was young and had to use a metronome a lot. And I also played a lot of jazz where where the rhythm is probably more important than the actual substance of the notes themselves. I am fortunate that I have been able to develop a pretty strong sense of internal rhythm. But that, internal rhythm isn't going to sound like a drum. The only way you can do that is to have the manifestation of the thought come out when you actually hit on the guitar or whatever percussive instrument you might be playing.
Can you show me how you tap the guitar, just for example, in that song?
Okay,
Are you hitting it with the palm of your hand and then your fingers? How are you doing it?
Well, okay, so I played obviously two parts of songs, so I'll demonstrate both of them with the Hey Bulldog. Hey Bulldog, I was having a conversation with a professor at Suffolk University named David Gallant, who teaches a course on Beatles, on the Beatles, and
I know him. I've interviewed him.
Well, he's a barrel of laughs and a very knowledgeable guy. Anyone would be lucky to have the opportunity to speak with him, particularly on this subject. And he actually told me the first time he heard me play Hey Bulldog that this song might be, along with songs like Helter Skelter, the real precursor to what would become heavy metal. So when I was arranging it, there's nothing really that refined about what I do here. Basically what I do, to break it down, so basically, it's not me trying to be as much. I'm basically trying to beat my guitar and get as much raw energy as I can. Now, if we compare that to Within You, Without You, the general rhythm that I do is sort of a riff on what's on the original record. I don't think it's been a while since I've listened to the original record. I don't think it's the exact same thing, but it's based on the same thing. So over here, we have sort of a lower drum. Over here, we have more of a rim shot. So in this case, I know I can see my fingers here. So basically what I'm doing here is to get this sound, I'm hitting sort of around here. So not really so much in the palm, closer to the wrist. And then here, I'm doing a full 4-finger slap. And then for the triplets, I'm doing thumb, index, ring. And then obviously I'll go back to the thumb to have sort of that type of a shot. So that's so I would say that the Within You, Without You percussion is certainly more intricate than the percussion for Hey Bulldog, but that is sort of endemic to the genres themselves. Heavy metal is very raw, very aggressive, and Indian music or Indian classical music is obviously I'm not an authority on it by any means, but it's a classical tradition that dates back centuries.
Exactly, but what I'm trying to say is when you're tapping the guitar, I'm thinking of flamenco guitarists. Because they do that.
Yeah. Yes, well, they do. I'm not a flamenco player myself, but I've studied with one. And the primary form of percussion that they use is they do something called a golpe. What that means is that they will do a rasgueado or whatever pattern, and they'll go down and they'll hit this part of the guitar like that. So that's where their percussion comes from. They don't do the percussion so much like this. But yes, flamenco guitar is very, very percussion oriented because the rasgueados, if you open your fingers wide enough, you can get a percussive attack on the strings that implies percussion. And then with the golpe, you can actually get the strike of the wood itself.
I just want to say this is all amazing. This is a fascinating interview there, Thatcher. Now tell me also where your links are so people can see you on the net. If there's anybody else there who wants to interview you or get you on Beatle conventions or Beatle shows, just give them all your links because I just think you're amazing.
Well, that's very kind of you. I really appreciate that. So for anyone who wants to hear more about me and what I do, whether it be for Beatle music or any other type of music, I play many different genres of music. You can find my website, www.thatcherharrison.com. I have a Facebook fan page simply called Thatcher Harrison, and I have a YouTube channel also called Thatcher Harrison. So those are probably the three best places where you can find me.
Now, Thatcher, before we go, if you could play Paul McCartney just a little bit right of I Will, if that's okay, and then we'll end the show there, if that's all right with you.
Sure. I don't actually have the right guitar for that, so
Sure.
My father's going to run down to grab one, and I'll...
No problem, he can do that. I'll ask you another question while we're waiting.
That would be great.
Now, just tell me, how many years now in total have you been playing guitar?
So let's see. I started playing guitar when I was roughly 2 or 3, and I am 19 now. So that would be, all in all, probably, do the math, about 16, 17 years.
Now, can I ask you, when you're 2 or 3, what sort of guitar are you playing? Are you playing a sort of ukulele shape, or you're playing a bigger size, smaller guitar? What are you playing?
I was actually playing full-size guitars. I refused to play. My second guitar is coming in, so I'm just going to switch off and prepare to sing I Will. I haven't done that in a while, but I'm happy to.
That's right. I appreciate it.
So to answer your question, actually, one of the funny things is that I started performing when I was 5 years old at little open mics and things like that. And one of the things that would oftentimes happen is that I would stand up, and the guitar was actually bigger than I was at the time when I was 5 years old. I hadn't hit my growth spurt yet. So what would oftentimes happen is I would stand up, I would play, and the guitar would fall down to the ground. So I'd have to pick it up and, smile and keep going. And now I've hit a couple growth spurts, so that doesn't happen so much. But I'm thinking of bringing it back. It might bring back some entertainment value.
Right, I got Charles Rosenay. He sent a message here. He's been rocking Harry Fest in Massachusetts since he was like 2 years old.
Well, it certainly feels like that. It feels like a long time's gone by, and yet not any time's gone by at all. So I'm not an expert on time. Even musical time, I'm still working with that.
Anyway, Thatcher, if you'd be kind enough just to play a verse and a chorus of the song, I'll just stay here and let's hear that before we do a wrap. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Who knows how long I've loved you? You know I love you still. Will I wait a lonely lifetime? If you want me to, I will. For if I ever saw you, I didn't catch your name, but it never really mattered. I will always feel the same.
Well, all I can say is thank you so much, Thatcher. It's been such a riveting, fantastic interview, and such a pleasure to have such a gifted guitarist and singer. It's just been amazing. Thank you again.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for reaching out and inviting me to appear on your program.
Anytime. Just fantastic, Thatcher.